When you're going into a Far Cry game these days, you generally know what you're getting yourself into. There's a big open world, there's lots of people and animals roaming the lands, probably looking to try and kill you, and there's all of these enemy encampments to take on, whether stealthily or all guns blazing. Far Cry 5 doesn't really change any of that side of things, but there's a lot of the ways that these moments are tied together that has been reworked, and smaller touches that I really enjoyed. Having played the game last week, here's 8 or 10 things, depending on how you want to count them, that I really like the look of in Far Cry 5. First up is the darker story. The projects at Eden's Gate cult are some pretty dark antagonists, where previous games have taken players to various corners of the world with stereotypical drug dealers and deranged militaristic leaders to contend with. These are Americans, and they are nuts. The opening scene sets them up as very real, very threatening, and a very dangerous cult. I can't show it to you because we weren't allowed to capture the first hour that we played, but the game gives you a pretty creepy atmosphere that I really enjoyed. Of course, the game doesn't stay that way, and before long you're heading out into Hope County, where you'll be barraged by the same cocktail of action against an endless stream of cultists, and the other kinds of hyperactive nonsense that you find in the side missions. We just hope that for all of those that do want a bit more of this darker tone, then Joseph Seed and his followers live up to their billing later on in the game. My second point is that you can create your own character. Given that you're playing a first-person shooter with a silent protagonist, this one's pretty low-key, but you can pick your character's gender, look and clothing quite early on in the game. That changes some of the dialogue from enemies and other characters, and it's also the character that any co-op buddies that you have online will see. It's a minor, yet it's a pretty pleasant touch from Ubisoft. Number 3, Far Cry, A Breath of the Wild. There's actually something about Link's latest adventure to Far Cry 5 and the world structure that Ubisoft have used. After the arrest of Seed goes very, very wrong, you come to in Dutch's bunker. Dutch is an interesting character who's had his own run-ins with the law for collecting rainwater of all things, and as a sheriff's deputy you kind of represent the law in this town. He begrudgingly decides that you're the lesser of the two evils by far and decides that you can help him out as much as he can help you out. Similar to Breath of the Wild, you venture out onto his cut-off little islands that just so happens to be right slap bang in the middle of the map. Do a few cultist-defying jobs here and there, capture an outpost, and climb a tower, and from that point on you can head out to any part of the map that you want to take on any part of the cultist operation that you want. The world design here is much more freeform, which brings us to number 4. There's no more towers. The Ubisoft towers have been done away with. Okay, so you do climb a tower on Dutch's island, but it's there for Ubi to give a knowing wink to the camera. Instead of climbing towers, you're running around, liberating towns, talking to people, helping out NPCs and getting tips on what's out there. As I said already, you can take on this world and whatever you find in it in any order that you want. Number 5 is a steep style map. This is another quick throwaway point, but I really like the map in Far Cry 5 as it takes a leaf out of Steep and the upcoming The Crew 2, letting you smoothly zoom in and letting you see a ton of the detail that you will be able to see on the ground, right down to the trees. If this becomes a Ubisoft trope, I won't be complaining because it's really pretty cool. Number 6, Herc is back and he's brought the whole family. I'm sure that I've spotted Herc in 1 or 2 screens or trailers before and he might have been mentioned, but he is back in a pretty big way in Far Cry 5, bringing his family along with him. It seems that he actually hails from Montana in the first place, and his dad's a very highly opinionated chap, shall we say. You'll be helping Herc out, but there's some nice little Easter eggs here, including boxes full of stuff from his previous adventures in the last few Far Cry games. Number 7, mix and match guns for hire, fangs for hire, and friends for hire. The whole for hire system is bloody great, I tell you, and it's actually going to be points 7, 8, and 9 on this list. Just having the option to have someone there who's got your back for when things do go south is a pretty damn good one, and they'll follow your lead nicely, whether it's going in stealthily or going in all guns blazing. Guns for Hire can include almost any friendly in-game character, whether they're named characters or basic standard NPCs who get a random name slapped on them. But you've also got the Fangs for Hire system, which brings us to point number 8, Cheeseburger the Bear. Everybody loved Boomer the dog when he was revealed last year, this scruffy looking mongrel that can sniff out and mark enemies for you, but Cheeseburger the bear is arguably even better. He's pretty adorable once you rescue him with an offering of salmon, and he will viciously defend you from anything that you come up against, whether it's cultists, obviously, their attack wolves, or other wildlife that just decides that it wants to take a bite out of you. He actually gets his name from his love of cheeseburgers, but you're not allowed to feed him any. I'm sorry, he's got diabetes, so it's a strict diet of salmon for him. And finally, in this for hire trifecta, we've got number 9. You can play the whole game in co-op. You could only mess around in the open world for Far Cry 4's co-op, making it feel like more of an afterthought than a really integral part of the game. But Far Cry 5 really brings it into the fold and lets you do everything in the game together. There's side missions, main story missions, even things like clutch nicks and stunt trials can be done in co-op with both of you taking them on. Best of all, you can combine all of these for hire systems together. Playing co-op, you can bring Cheeseburger along for a little extra backup, or you can have multiple guns for hire, mixing up stealthy bow and arrow types with those toting SMGs. And then there's also things like Nick Wright in his aeroplane. There's a huge array of backup that you can choose from, meaning that you've at sometimes almost got an army alongside you. Finally, point number 10, the grass looks really, really good. I'm not entirely sure why, but every time I play Far Cry 5, I am surprised by how impressed I am with the way it looks. Far Cry has always been about creating these vibrant worlds filled with the local flora and fauna, and they've always had some pretty good looking environments for the time, but Far Cry 5 takes things to that next level for me. There's some really thick and great looking grass in this game, mixed in with different types of shrubbery and plants. Again, Far Cry 4 and Primal look similarly great, but for me, 5 just goes that extra step in how it blends together and really feels like this is grass that you can actually hide in. So yeah, great looking grass. I bet you didn't expect that to be on this list. That was my final point for this video, but there's one extra secret thing that I couldn't include because the embargo hasn't lifted just yet. And no, it would not have replaced grass. It would have been an additional one. So you'll have to come back tomorrow for that, or I will have added a little hot link in the corner above at this point. If you want to see more about Far Cry 5, then you can catch out other various previews, both here on YouTube and over on the6thAxis.com. But before you disappear, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Hopefully we will see you soon. Goodbye!
I want to apologize for the harm that I felt.